Indie games have always pushed the boundaries of what's possible within the world of gaming, and 2023 is no exception. In this video, I'll explore some of the most highly anticipated indie releases of the year ahead. Let's begin, and in no particular order, we'll crack on with Skate Story. Developed by Sam England in partnership with the ever-reliable indie juggernaut that is Devolver Digital. Given the footage from this recent trailer, it may very well offer a unique and captivating experience in what seems to be a flow-based game where you play as a demon skating through the underworld on a mission to escape by travelling to the moon and then eating it. Now that's quite the premise. I'm completely taken by the visuals, and if the skating mechanics and controls are fluid and intuitive, this should make for a joyous, immersive experience. Skate Story looks absolutely terrific, with it coming to Windows at some point later in the year. Nine Souls is an upcoming 2D action platformer from Red Candle Games. You may remember them from the exquisitely executed psychological horror games Detention and Devotion. I'm looking forward to this mostly in how the combat might play out, which puts me in mind of the deflection-based mechanics of Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. The trailer hints at players needing to get into the mind space where you're able to focus on the attack style of the enemies, and in so doing, learn their patterns to dodge, deflect, and counter-strike. Now I can't lie, I was utterly terrible at Sekiro, so I'll probably just as inept at Nine Souls, although this won't stop me trying, with it expected out at some point in Q3 for Windows, the Switch, and the PlayStation. As this video goes to air, there's also a demo to play via the game's Steam homepage, and like all of the games featured in this rundown, you can find a link down in the video description.
For the last 2 years, you've been playing with your balls. But now, it's time to blast!
That slightly smutty opening aside, I'm completely bowled over by Anton Blast, a game that raised over $144,000 in a Kickstarter funding campaign towards the end of last year. Okay, so for many, well, perhaps it doesn't look much, and yet for me, all of this is dripping with a sense of nostalgia for the games from the era of the Game Boy Advance. I honestly adore these retro stylings that has me feeling somewhat sentimental, as I can vividly recall owning this piece of hardware and playing such games in the early 2000s. Anton Blast follows the story of Dynamite Anton, a destruction worker who gets into a little bit of bother with Satan. I'm thinking this will split the jury. I love how it's shaping up and think I'll end up playing this as a rush type of game to see how quickly I can finish each level. So what do you think? Do you, like me, love the prospect of picking this up on launch date? If you do, or you think I'm nuts for adding it to this rundown, do let me know down in the comments. Anton Blast is slated to be out soon for Windows, and I'd love to see this come out on the Switch. Moving onwards with Sea of Stars, and I know this one's going to be a popular choice for many people watching this video. This comes from the same team who brought us The Messenger from 2018. However, these two games couldn't be more at either ends of the gaming spectrum, even if they do share the same universe. Here we have a turn-based JRPG telling the tale of two children able to combine the powers of the sun and the moon, and in so doing, are able to perform a type of magic that's the only force capable of defeating the creatures from the game's arch-villain, the Fleshmancer. A rather fine name for a villain, I think we can all agree. I'm not often one for these kind of games, controversial I know, and yet I'm getting into a Sea of Stars based on what Sabotage did with their original The Messenger game, with its inspired 8 and 16-bit imagery, albeit with the team adding countless modern platform twists, so it added to rather than simply emulated games from way back when. I'm hoping the same will hold here with Sabotage looking to put a new modern spin on these kind of JRPGs. Sea of Stars looks set to come out this year for Windows, the PlayStation, and the Nintendo Switch. Next up is the forthcoming offering from Inkle, who previously brought us Heaven's Vault and Overboard. A Highland Song sounds oddly interesting, with it described as a side-scrolling slice of narrative serenity. First off, it looks fabulous, with this the first of 3 games in this rundown that reminds me more of a painting than we tend to see in such video games. There's also a hint of jadedness here, that the colour's been washed away a little, which gives me a subtle feeling of wariness, which is quite possibly the intent given the game sees you hiking from the Scottish Highlands to the coast. Inkle's previous work has been terrifically clever, and I'm expecting the same here. I'm really looking forward to seeing more about the rhythm sections, and hopefully the survival aspects, which are probably all about finding food and shelter, won't have me shrugging my shoulders like so many other survival games of late. A Highland Song is headed to Windows and the Nintendo Switch. One of the folks who used to help me pull together GetIndieGaming was able to spend time with the Planet of Lana demo at last year's EGX event in London. It's fair, and perhaps an understatement to say it rather captivated them, as they wouldn't stop going on about it for weeks, if not months. They were really taken by the idea of you needing to navigate the game from left to right with the help of a companion, each needing the other in equal measure in order to survive. The companion-based navigation games, they can leave me somewhat cold. I never really got on with either Ico or The Last Guardian, although my former colleague was at pains to say he found this aspects of the game's demo to be intuitive and easy to grasp hold of, and the idea of mutual assistance just flowed naturally from within the demo. They did mention, however, the demo was rather difficult, although the puzzles were also said to be a fine balance of head-scratching to logical deduction to the completion of said puzzle. As is a theme for me within this rundown, I can't argue with how beautiful Planet of Lana looks. Again, there's something of the painterly about all of this, and while I may have some misgivings on certain aspects of the gameplay, Planet of Lana is something I'll crack on with as soon as I'm able, which should be at some point in the spring on Windows, Xbox, and also day one on the Xbox Game Pass. Up next, Dead Static Drive, a game that brought me to squeals and swears of delight when I last played the demo at Gamescom in the summer of 2019. Now, I understand the footage here is a little old, although I wanted to share this open-world survival game within this 2023 rundown. Set within a post-apocalyptic world, players will need to use their wits and scavenging skills while fending off fellow survivors and deadly-looking critters and monsters, including the Tremors worm that made me so happy when playing the demo all the way back when. I'm intrigued how the game will blend what feels like an undertone of deft humour with horror and survival aspects. Either way, I've been sold on the art style and aesthetics here for years. Dead Static Drive will be available for Windows and the Xbox platform, including Xbox Game Pass. At number 3, we have Dordogne, which looks more like an animated watercolour painting than video game. Which, it kind of is, given every character has been painted by hand, just like every background, before being scanned and then added into the game engine. Now, I'm very sentimental about this region of the south of France. I was lucky to have spent many long summers down there swimming in the river with picnics along its banks as we went from cake shop to cake shop, all the while without a single care in the world. Looking back, it really was a delight, and I'm hoping we'll see a few familiar sights of the region from those holidays and travels around that part of France. It's expected to launch on Windows, the Switch, Xbox and PlayStation, with it described by the developers as being a narrative adventure game. In the game, players will control a young French woman called Mimi as you visit the home of your recently deceased grandmother. You'll play as her 10-year-old self, and in Mimi's present-day form too, and in so doing, you'll rediscover childhood memories, solve puzzles, and complete interactive vignettes as you unfold the story ahead of you. I'm honestly really excited about this, and I'm also looking forward to seeing how it all works. This may well all end up being a game that's more like an interactive painting than, well, a video game. And I'm also hoping this will work across the generations, with me looking forward to sharing this with my parents, who took me to this part of France each year, and also now my not-so-young children, before we all head off to the region in the forthcoming summer. At number 2, a game I've been following for perhaps 5 or so years, with this coming from a single developer called Jamie D. Now there's no denying it. The influences are there front, right and centre, with it being pretty hard to do what Jamie's attempting in Hellscreen without Doom and Quake, as well as a few other arena shooters creeping into the mix. However, and in all seriousness, this is by far and away the most excited I've been about such a game in years. Firstly, I adore the art style. The use of the reds and the cyan play off against each other in visual bliss. Their selection feels like an astounded choice given the rest of the art style used here. And then we have that ridiculous but utterly brilliant mechanic here that is the rear view mirror. Now that's total genius, and one of those things I can't help think why I've not seen something like this before. I recently played the demo, which you can still grab hold of on the game's Steam homepage, and yes, it's all fast, frantic, and utterly incredible to play. Hellscreen is due out in the first quarter of the year on Windows. Honestly, if you're a fan of these games, or even if not, go put this on your wish list right after you've seen my number 1 pick of the games I'm most looking forward to coming out this year. If you're a fan of the original Hollow Knight, it seems likely its successor, Hollow Knight Silksong, will come out at some point this year. It's been a long time coming, and I still fondly remember playing a demo at EGX in London in October of 2019. I remember the game even back then felt and played differently than the original. I set this down to Hornet, the new protagonist having a different set of abilities than the original character. She feels more nimble, more agile, and just that little bit more sprightly. There's no denying Silksong is the game I'm most looking forward to all year, and while it still doesn't officially have a release date, here's hoping we'll all be able to play it before the year's through. Silksong is coming to PC, the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5 and the Xbox platform. Xbox Game Pass users will also be happy to know it launches on day 1 for that subscription service. Are you hyped for Silksong? Let me know down there in the comments. With Silksong wrapping up my top 10 picks for indie games in the year ahead, please be sure to like the video, and if you haven't already, now's a great time to subscribe to the channel. Do let me know which indie games you're most looking forward to playing down in the comments, and I'll be back soon with another indie game video.